There are chapters in your life that exist only in the silence of your own heart. Have you ever sat across from someone you've known for decades and realized they don't truly know you? Not the you that exists in the quiet moments before dawn, not the you that carries conversations with people who are no longer here, not the you that remembers the weight of decisions that changed everything. They know your laugh, your habits, maybe even your fears. But the full story? The complete tapestry of who you are. That remains yours alone. And perhaps that's exactly as it should be. We live in a world that demands transparency, where sharing has become a currency and privacy feels almost selfish. Social media promises connection but delivers performance. We curate highlights while the profound moments, the ones that truly shaped us, remain unspoken. The miscarriage at 23 that nobody talks about anymore. The night you almost left everything behind. The letter you never sent. The forgiveness you gave in silence. These are not secrets born of shame, they are sacred spaces that belong to you. There's something both lonely and liberating about being the sole keeper of your own story. Lonely because sometimes the weight feels too much to carry alone. Liberating because you get to decide which chapters to share and which to hold close. You are not obligated to be an open book. Your story is not a public domain. Think about the people who raised you, the ones whose hands held yours when you were small. How much of their story did you really know? How much did they choose to keep to themselves? There were dreams they buried, loves they lost before they found your other parent, nights they lay awake worrying about money while you slept soundly in the next room. They were full people with full lives before you existed, and they remained full people with private thoughts and untold stories even as they devoted themselves to raising you. Now you understand. Now you know what it means to have lived enough to accumulate stories that don't need to be shared to be meaningful. To have loved and lost in ways that resist explanation. To have made choices that seemed right at the time but that others might not understand looking back. The truth is, we are all walking around with invisible histories. The woman at the grocery store who always seems tired might be caring for a parent with dementia, staying up nights to make sure they don't wander. The man who lives alone and tends his garden with such precision might be talking to his late wife as he works, continuing conversations that death interrupted but didn't end. The neighbor who keeps to herself might be protecting a peace she fought years to achieve. We assume we know, but we don't. We see the surface and think we understand the depth. We witness the current moment and believe we grasp the entire timeline. But people are not simple stories with clear beginnings, middles, and ends. We are layered narratives, complex characters with subplots that intersect and diverge, with themes that evolve over decades. Consider your own hands. Look at them now. These hands have held babies and signed papers and wiped tears and built things and broken things. They've touched faces that are now only memories and written words that mattered to someone, somewhere. They've been folded in prayer, clenched in anger, extended in friendship, pulled back in protection. Every line tells a story, but even you have forgotten some of what they've done, some of whom they've touched. Your body holds memories your mind has released. Your heart remembers rhythms it can no longer name. There are parts of your story that exist now only in sensation, in the way certain music moves through you, in the comfort you find in specific rituals, in the unease that visits you in particular seasons. You are your own archive, and some files are buried so deep you've forgotten they exist. This isn't tragedy, this is humanity. This is the beautiful, complicated truth of having lived. You are not a case study or a cautionary tale or an inspiration. You are not required to make sense to others or to fit into their understanding of who you should be. Your contradictions are not flaws to be resolved, they are the natural result of having adapted to different seasons, different relationships, different versions of yourself. The young woman who danced until dawn exists alongside the person who now prefers quiet evenings. The ambitious professional lives within the same body as the one who learned that some victories aren't worth the cost. The parent who worried about everything shares space with the grandparent who has learned to let go. These are not different people, they are facets of the same jewel, angles of the same prism catching light differently over time. Sometimes we feel pressure to reconcile these different versions of ourselves, to create a coherent narrative that explains how we got from there to here. But what if the beauty lies in the mystery? What if the spaces between the chapters are as important as the chapters themselves? What if the story doesn't need to make perfect sense to be perfectly true? There are loves you've carried that no one else will ever understand. Not because they were wrong, but because they were yours. There are losses you've grieved in private, disappointments you've processed alone, joys you've savored without needing to explain why they mattered so much. There are versions of yourself that lived only in certain relationships, aspects of your personality that emerged only in specific circumstances, dreams that you pursued just far enough to know they weren't meant to be. And then there are the roads not taken, visible only to you. The job you almost accepted, the place you almost moved, the person you almost became. These ghost stories run parallel to your actual life, and sometimes in quiet moments, you wonder about them. What if you had said yes instead of no? What if you had stayed instead of left? What if you had spoken up instead of staying silent? These alternate histories don't diminish your actual story, they enrich it. They remind you that your life has been a series of choices, and with every choice came both gain and loss. The path you didn't take doesn't represent failure, it represents the complexity of human decision-making, the impossibility of living all the lives that exist within you. People often ask about regrets, as if there's something to be avoided or overcome. But perhaps regrets are simply acknowledgments of your capacity to love and want and hope. They're proof that you cared enough about something to wish it had gone differently. A life without regrets might be a life without investment, without vulnerability, without the beautiful risk of caring deeply about outcomes you couldn't control. Your regrets are part of your story too, even if no one else needs to know their details. They sit alongside your triumphs, your moments of grace, your instances of perfect clarity. They all belong to you. They all contributed to who you are now. As the years accumulate, you realize that being truly known is not about having someone understand every detail of your history. It's about finding people who can sit comfortably with the fact that you contain mysteries. It's about being accepted not despite your unknowability, but because of it. The people who love you best understand that you are vast, that you have depths they will never fully explore, and that this makes you more interesting, not less. This is different from the knowing we craved when we were younger, when we wanted to be understood completely, when we thought love meant transparency. Now we understand that love can include privacy, that intimacy doesn't require total exposure, that you can be deeply connected to someone while still maintaining rooms in your heart that are yours alone. The children in your life, if you have them, might wonder about your past, might ask questions about who you were before they knew you. You share what feels right to share, what serves their understanding of you and themselves and the world. But you don't owe them your whole story. Some chapters are gifts to be given, others are treasures to be kept. This isn't about secrets or shame or hiding. This is about honoring the fact that you are a complete person, not a supporting character in someone else's story. You existed fully before you were anyone's parent or partner or friend. You will exist fully if those relationships change or end. Your worth is not dependent on how well others understand you or how completely you reveal yourself. In quiet moments, when you're alone with your thoughts, you are in the presence of the only person who knows your whole story. Even then, there are parts that surprise you, memories that surface unexpectedly, connections you make between events that seemed unrelated at the time. You are still discovering yourself, still finding new chapters in what you thought was a finished book. There is profound peace in this privacy. In a world that often feels invasive, where everyone has opinions about everyone else's choices, your inner life remains sovereign territory. Your thoughts, your memories, your private reflections, these cannot be taken from you, cannot be judged by others, cannot be diminished by misunderstanding. The stories you keep to yourself are not burden but treasure. They are the inheritance you give to yourself, the gift of privacy in a transparent world. They are the proof that you have lived fully enough to accumulate experiences that resist easy explanation, loves that defy categorization, sorrows that cannot be quickly comforted. When you catch yourself wishing that someone truly understood you, remember that understanding is not the same as knowing every fact. The people who understand you see how you move through the world, how you respond to beauty and pain, how you show love and handle disappointment. They don't need your complete biography to recognize your character. And when you find yourself judging others for their choices, for their responses, for their seeming contradictions, remember that you are seeing only part of their story. The behavior that seems strange or inappropriate might make perfect sense if you knew what they knew, had experienced what they experienced, carried what they carry. Grace begins with acknowledging how much we don't know about each other. In the end, the fact that nobody knows your whole story is not a failure of communication or intimacy. It is evidence of your depth, your complexity, your right to remain partially mysterious even to those closest to you. It is proof that you are more than what others can perceive, more than what you choose to reveal, more than any single story could contain. Your untold stories are not waiting to be discovered by someone else. They are not incomplete until shared. They are whole unto themselves, precious exactly as they are, meaningful whether or not anyone else ever knows them. They are the private treasures of a life fully lived, the secret wealth of someone who has accumulated experiences like sea glass, each piece beautiful for its own reasons. Tonight, when you turn off the lights and settle into quiet, you will be in the presence of your whole story. In that darkness, in that privacy, in that sacred space between waking and sleeping, you will carry all of it, the known and unknown, the told and untold, the shared and unshared. And it will all be exactly as it should be. You are the author, narrator, and sole owner of the complete version of your life. Nobody else needs to know your whole story. Nobody else could understand it the way you do. And that's not just okay, it's perfect. If these words have touched something in you, if they've reminded you of stories only you know that you're not alone in this beautiful privacy. We're all carrying untold chapters, and perhaps that shared mystery is the deepest connection of all.